have an inner villain inside of you, I know you do. But you're probably trying to squash it, aren't you? You're trying to act like a civilized person out in this civilized world, and to be polite, and to be nice.
Blah, 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 blah.
But when you come to your writing, it is best not to squash your dark side. Indeed, if you want to become a really creative and original and exciting writer, you must tap into your dark side. Find out why in this video. I saw an original Star Trek episode the other day that got me thinking about our dark sides. In this episode, titled The Enemy Within, for those of you who may want to go look it up, a transporter malfunction splits Captain Kirk into two people. There is the good Kirk and the bad Kirk. The good one gets all the good characteristics. He is thoughtful and careful and kind, while the bad one gets all the, quote, bad characteristics. He's aggressive and devious and smart about what risks he can take. Spoiler alert, in the end, the two versions are merged back together. What's interesting is the observations Kirk and his crew make about these two characters, the good and the bad Kirk. We might think that the good Kirk would be the one they would all want to keep, and they would want to get rid of the bad one, but that's not the way it was. The good Kirk, you see, found himself unable to make the tough decisions that a captain has to make. In considering all the potential consequences, he gets stuck, while his inaction threatens the lives of his crew. The evil Kirk, on the other hand, seems full of bravado and energy, yet he suffers from the paralyzing fear of being destroyed. Toward the end of the episode, the evil Kirk clings to the good Kirk, begging not to be killed. We may imagine that our dark sides may feel that way now and then, The good Kirk must begrudgingly admit that he needs his evil side. Holding him close, he goes through the repaired transporter to be made whole once again. Are there times when we should embrace our dark sides, or even encourage them? Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung, who famously called the dark side the shadow, he believed that this shadow side consisted mostly of primitive, negative human emotions like selfishness, greed, anger, lust for power, and envy. All emotions that are typically denied expression in life.
No.
He also stated, however, that the shadow side can give us some good qualities, such as normal instincts, appropriate reactions, realistic insights, creative impulses, etc. Creative impulses from the shadow side? He went on to say that only by consciously embracing the dark side can we become true individuals. Your dark side is the door to your individuality. And aren't we trying to cultivate our individuality as writers? Aren't we trying to be as original as we can? Aren't we trying to find our unique voice? As artists, we are always seeking to become more ourselves. Could it be that acknowledging and accepting the darker sides of our personalities is the key to achieving this goal? A prominent psycho-spiritual teacher by the name of Matteo So, he goes so far as to describe our good characteristics as mundane. Sort of like the good Kirk being practically useless on the Enterprise. And then he goes on to say that the shadow side or primitive facets of our personalities are perhaps more interesting, more exciting. He says, quote, "It's astounding to realize that often the mundane characteristics in people are the ones that are socially acceptable. In essence, any primitive traits within us are sent to our shadow selves. But at the same time, any creative, unique, innovative, and different ideas also get sent to our shadow selves because they're not socially acceptable. That's a little scary, as it suggests that as we squash the dark side so that we can be accepted into society, so too may we be squashing the creative part of ourselves. Deepak Chopra is another person who has commented on this idea. He co-wrote the book called The Shadow Effect with Debbie Ford and Marianne Williamson. In that book he said, quote, "If you had only truth, goodness, and harmony on the inside, and the complete absence of the other, there would be no creative impulse." Unquote. Oh, what? Horrors! He's saying that the good Kirk would have no creative impulse. He would not be creative. If we are writing only from our good sides, are we losing our creativity? She says that only by uncovering and embracing our dark sides can we become whole. She goes a step further to state that when we ignore or squash this side of ourselves, we are less likely to fulfill our potential. Indeed, the shadow, according to Carl Jung, is, quote, a source of renewal. That place that we must turn to when we feel we're stuck in a rut or can't find a way to expand and move forward. The process, however, is not always easy, as writers know. If you've been busy, like most of us, being your best self, Halloween is the perfect season for getting back in touch with your dark side. But just how do you do that? Well, I wouldn't advise that you go out and rob a bank or something similar. Please don't do that. I've found a few constructive ways that can get you back in touch with this shadow. Number 1. Explore the shadow in your work. We can assign these darker sides of ourselves to the villains in our stories and then see how they play out. Is there anything more fun than writing those scenes that feature the bad guy? I have one tip for you. If your story is stalling, it's probably because you're neglecting your antagonist. The second way that you can tap into your dark side works best if you're finding yourself in a rut, you're blocked on your story, or perhaps you're blocked in your whole entire writing career. It's just not moving forward for you. If that's the case, try asking your darker self what it would like to do. That doesn't mean you have to act on the suggestion, but you may be able to use it constructively. Let's say your dark side wants to ditch your day job and take a trip to Hawaii. Just the thought of that perks you up, doesn't it? You can feel it, but likely doing that would put your job and your family and your income in jeopardy. Hearing this desire, however, can help you get out of a rut, and here's how. All you have to do is downplay it a little bit. Instead of going all out with a lavish trip to Hawaii, why don't you just simply take a day or two off of work and go somewhere that you've never been before? Let your darker side out of all your responsibilities for a little while. Here's another way to tap into your dark side. Use it to protect your writing time. Remember, the bad Kirk was the one who was aggressive, stood up for himself. Could be that you're being a bit too nice. You're allowing people to interrupt your writing time. You're allowing them to question your dreams as a writer. Many writers are too nice and have a hard time saying no to others, and thus don't get as much time on their creative work as they'd like. Here's where embracing the dark side or the selfish side of yourself can be helpful. If you're faced with a decision, should I go to the conference? Should I not? Should I take a month off from my writing? Should I not? Tune into your darker nature. It could be that you need a little grit or aggressiveness to chase away that wimpy side of you and make the right decision for your future. And the last tip I have for you for how to get into touch with your inner villain is to get a little bit angry. Psychologist Stephen A. Diamond is quoted in The Creative Mind as saying that though most of us view anger negatively, quote, anger can also motivate constructive and creative behavior. Because anger is socially unacceptable, for good reason, most of us swallow it or repress it. We can express it in healthy ways, though. and tap into the emotion that way. For example, for many years I slaved away on my first novel and never got anywhere with it. It was taking way too long to get this first novel published, so I got mad and I researched and I sent the novel out to 20 publishers. Want to know what happened? I got a publishing contract after that. Think about it. I hope that this Halloween you will take the opportunity to tap into your inner villain, your shadow, and see if it doesn't break you out of a rut, make your writing more original, help you connect to your inner creative voice. Happy Halloween, and I'll see you next time.